The red warning lights flashed across the command center on Nexus Prime. Admiral Veltar's 6 arms moved quickly over the control panels, his insect-like eyes watching the data streams with growing fear. Each new report brought worse news. Another world lost, another fleet destroyed. The ancient machines called Void Reapers were winning. "How many ships did we lose at Kepler Station?" Admiral Veltar asked. His voice carried the weight of command, but also the strain of too many defeats. Dr. Kexhai looked up from her water tank workstation. Her blue skin was pale with worry. 347 ships, Admiral. The Reapers destroyed them all in less than 6 hours. The Admiral's antennae drooped. That was their 3rd major fleet this month. At this rate, the Coalition would run out of ships before they ran out of worlds to defend. He looked around the command center at the representatives from 12 different species. All of them showed fear in their own ways. "We need help," said Commander Tholek, the rock-like granite species representative. "Our weapons cannot hurt these machines. They adapt too fast." "The humans," Dr. Kexhai said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "We should ask the humans for help." Several officers made dismissive sounds. The humans had only joined the Coalition 50 years ago. They were still considered newcomers, barely worth notice. Their homeworld was far from the core Coalition systems. "The humans?" Admiral Veltar's voice showed doubt. "They have been part of the Coalition for such a short time. What could they possibly do that we cannot?" Dr. Kexhai pulled up human records on the main screen. "Look at their military history, Admiral. They have fought wars on their own planet for thousands of years. They know about conflict in ways we do not, and the reports from their border conflicts show interesting tactics." The Admiral studied the data. The humans did seem to win fights they should have lost. They used strange methods that other species found hard to understand. But still, they were just one small species among many. "Very well," Admiral Veltar decided. "Send the emergency call to all Coalition members, including the humans. We need every ship we can get." The message went out across the galaxy through quantum communication networks. It was a formal request for military aid against the Void Reaper threat. Every Coalition member received the same urgent plea: send your best ships and your finest crews. The survival of galactic civilization depended on it. 3 days later, the rally point at Sigma Station was full of ships. The proud fleets of the Zentaurians arrived first, their sleek silver vessels arranged in perfect formations. The massive granite dreadnoughts came next, floating mountains of armor and weapons. The quick Aquarian corvettes darted between the larger ships like schools of metallic fish. Admiral Veltar watched from the station's observation deck as more ships arrived. The Crystalline Empire sent their energy-based fighters. The Hive Mind brought their coordinated swarm ships. Even the mysterious Shadow Collective had sent a few of their dark vessels. "Over 800 ships," reported his aide. "The largest fleet in Coalition history." The Admiral felt hope for the first time in weeks. Surely this massive force could stop the ancient machines. Then his aide spoke again. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it on screen," Veltar ordered. He expected to see a human admiral commanding hundreds of ships. Instead, the screen showed a single human male in a simple uniform. Behind him was what looked like a normal ship bridge. "This is Captain Hyunki of the human vessel Indomitable," the man said. His voice was calm and steady. "We have arrived at the rally point and are ready to assist." Admiral Veltar looked around the bridge in confusion. "Captain, where is the rest of your fleet?" Captain Hyunki seemed surprised by the question. "This is our contribution to the operation, Admiral. The Indomitable and her crew. One ship?" The Admiral's voice rose with disbelief. "You brought one ship?" "Yes, sir. We believe it will be sufficient for our role in the operation." The bridge fell silent. Dr. Kexhai checked her readings twice. The human ship registered as a medium-sized cruiser. Nothing special about its energy signature or size. It looked ordinary compared to the massive dreadnoughts and carrier ships around it. "Captain Hyunki," Admiral Veltar said carefully, "we are facing an enemy that has destroyed entire fleets. We sent an emergency request for all available military assets. You understand the situation is desperate?" "We do understand, Admiral. We have studied the Void Reaper attacks carefully. We believe our approach will be effective." Admiral Veltar's antennae twitched with frustration. "Your approach?" "Captain, we need overwhelming firepower to break through Reaper defenses. We need hundreds of ships working together. You have brought one vessel against an enemy that destroyed 300 of our ships just days ago. Captain Hyun-ki nodded slowly. With respect, Admiral, sometimes the number of ships is less important than how you use them. We have prepared for this type of conflict. Other voices began speaking across the communication channels. Coalition captains expressed anger and disappointment. Some questioned human commitment to the alliance. Others wondered if this was some kind of insult. The humans mock us, growled Captain Voroth of the Granite Fleet. They send one small ship when we asked for everything they had. Perhaps they fear to risk their real fleet, suggested Commander Zil Ara of the Crystalline Forces. They keep their best ships safe at home. Dr. Kexhai watched Captain Hyun-ki's face on the screen. The human showed no anger at these comments. His expression remained calm and confident. There was something in his eyes that reminded her of the old reports about human warriors. They had a look of quiet certainty that was hard to explain. Captain, she said, your people have a reputation for unconventional thinking. Is there something about your ship we should know? Captain Hyun-ki smiled slightly. Dr. Kexhai, isn't it? You wrote some interesting papers about human psychology. You understand that humans often approach problems differently than other species. Yes, but this is a military operation, not a psychology experiment. Sometimes those things are more connected than people think, Captain Hyun-ki replied. Admiral Veltar, the Indomitable is ready to take orders and serve alongside coalition forces. We will prove our worth in battle. Admiral Veltar looked at the massive fleet surrounding the single human ship. 847 coalition vessels plus one human cruiser. The size difference was almost comical, but something about the human captain's confidence was unsettling. Either he was completely insane, or he knew something the coalition did not. Very well, Captain. Your ship will be assigned to reconnaissance duties with the outer patrol groups. Try to stay out of the main battle zones. Understood, Admiral. We'll do our part. The transmission ended, leaving the coalition command staff in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Commander Tholek spoke what everyone was thinking. Either the humans are fools or we are missing something important. Dr. Kexhai studied the data on the human ship one more time. The Indomitable looked ordinary in every way. Its weapons were standard energy cannons and missile systems. Its shields were normal deflector arrays. Its size was unremarkable. Nothing about it suggested special capabilities. But she remembered the human expression about still waters running deep. Maybe there was more to this ship than appearances suggested, or maybe the humans really had sent just one ship to face an enemy that had destroyed hundreds. Either way, they would find out soon enough. The Void Reapers were not going to wait for the coalition to solve its doubts. The fleet would move out in 12 hours, heading toward the enemy's last known position. 800 coalition ships and one human vessel against an ancient threat that had already proven it could destroy anything in its path. Admiral Veltar hoped the humans knew what they were doing, because if they were wrong, that one ship would become one more wreck floating in space, and the coalition would be no closer to stopping the machines that threatened to end all life in the galaxy. The combined fleet moved through space like a metal river, 800 coalition ships spread across light years, their engines creating streams of light in the darkness. At the edge of the formation, almost forgotten, the human ship Indomitable kept pace with the larger vessels. Captain Hyun-ki stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display. His crew worked quietly at their stations. Lieutenant Jae-won tracked the fleet's movement patterns. Engineer So-jin monitored the ship's systems. Communications Officer Minho listened to the constant chatter between coalition vessels. The Zentorian flagship is requesting our status report, Minho said. Send. Them our standard readings, Captain Hyun-ki replied. Ship operational, crew ready, following assigned patrol route. Dr. Ye-jin looked up from her science station. Captain, I'm picking up some interesting data from the coalition ships. Their crew stress levels are very high. Fear responses are showing clearly on bioscanners. Understandable, the captain said. They've lost many friends in recent battles. Fear is a normal response to facing an enemy that seems unbeatable. Engineer So-jin spoke from her station. Captain, should I begin preparations? Not yet, So-jin. Let's see what we're actually facing first. The fleet had been traveling for 2 days when the first reports came in. Long-range sensors detected the Void Reapers near a dead system called Keros. The ancient machines had built some kind of base there, using the wreckage of destroyed planets as raw material. Admiral Veltar's voice came over the fleet communication system. All vessels, this is Fleet Command. We are approaching the target zone. Prepare for combat operations. Remember, these machines adapt quickly to our weapons. Hit them hard and fast before they can adjust. Captain Hyun-ki listened to the battle plans with interest. The coalition strategy was straightforward. Massive firepower applied all at once. Every ship would target the Reaper formation and pour everything they had into the first attack. The hope was to destroy the machines before they could analyze and counter coalition weapons. "It's a good plan," Lieutenant Jae-won said quietly, "for most enemies, but..." Captain Hyun-ki asked, "But the reports say these machines learn from every attack. The more firepower you use, the more data you give them to work with." The captain nodded. "What do you think we should do?" "Watch and learn first. See how they respond to different attack types. Figure out their patterns before we commit to anything." "Jae-won is right," Dr. Ye-jin added. "These machines are ancient. They've probably seen every standard attack pattern before. We need to understand them before we can beat them." The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Keros system. Immediately, alarms began sounding across all ships. The Void Reapers were there just as reported. But seeing them for the first time was still shocking. The machines were huge, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved in perfect coordination, like parts of a single giant organism. Their weapons were beams of energy that could slice through ship armor like it was paper. Worst of all, there were dozens of them. "Coalition forces, begin attack run," Admiral Veltar ordered. The fleet moved forward in formation. Zentaurian ships led the charge, their silver hulls gleaming as they fired their plasma cannons. Granite dreadnoughts followed, launching massive projectiles that could destroy small moons. Aquarian corvettes darted between the larger ships, adding their rapid-fire lasers to the attack. For a few moments, it looked like the plan might work. The concentrated firepower was enormous. Energy beams and missiles filled space between the two fleets. Some of the Void Reapers took damage, their dark hulls showing bright scars where weapons hit. Then the machines began to adapt. The Reaper shields changed color and frequency. Zentaurian plasma beams that had been effective suddenly bounced off harmlessly. The machine's own weapons began targeting specific weak points on coalition ships, as if they had instantly learned how each vessel was built. "They're analyzing our attack patterns in real time," Dr. Ye-jin reported from the Indomitable. "Look at how they're repositioning. They're using our own formations against us." Captain Hyun-ki watched the battle with growing concern. The coalition ships were brave and their crews fought with skill, but they were being outmatched. The Void Reapers learned from every shot fired at them and adapted their defenses accordingly. Within an hour, the coalition had lost over 200 ships. The survivors were retreating, their weapons proving less and less effective as the battle continued. Admiral Veltar's voice came over the communications, strained clear in every word. "All ships fall back to minimum safe distance. Regroup for second attack wave." The remaining coalition vessels pulled back, leaving debris and the dead floating in space. The Void Reapers did not pursue. They simply returned to their positions around the dead planets, as if the entire battle had been nothing more than a minor interruption. "Captain," Minho said, "Admiral Veltar is requesting a status report from all ships." "Tell him we're undamaged and ready for orders," Captain Hyun-ki replied. "Sir, should I mention that we didn't participate in the main attack? He knows where we were. Our assignment was reconnaissance and outer patrol. We followed orders." Lieutenant Jae-won pulled up the battle data on his screen. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Reaper response patterns. They're definitely learning, but there are some interesting gaps in their adaptation." "What kind of gaps?" "They respond very quickly to direct energy weapons and projectiles, but they seem to have trouble with unexpected timing and irregular patterns. It's like they're programmed to expect certain types of attacks." Engineer Sojin nodded from her station. "That makes sense. Ancient programming would be based on what weapons existed when they were built. They might not be ready for truly random tactics." Dr. Ye-jin was studying bio-readings from the coalition ships. "The crews are badly shaken. Morale is dropping fast. Many are questioning whether these machines can be beaten at all." A new communication came in from Admiral Veltar. "Captain Hyun-ki, report to flagship for strategic planning session." "On my way, Admiral." Captain Hyun-ki took a shuttle to the Zentaurian flagship. The massive ship's corridors were filled with injured crew members and repair teams working on battle damage. The command center had a grim atmosphere that reminded him of hospitals after major disasters. Admiral Veltar looked exhausted. His 6 arms moved slowly as he gestured to the tactical displays. Captain, as you can see, our situation is not good. We lost 230 ships in that engagement. Our weapons are becoming less effective with each attack. Other coalition officers stood around the holographic battle display. Their expressions ranged from despair to anger. Captain Hyun-ki noticed several of them looking at him with barely hidden resentment. "The human ship did nothing during the battle," said Captain Voroth of the Granite Fleet. "While our people died, they watched from safety." "We followed our assigned patrol route," Captain Hyun-ki replied calmly. "Our orders were reconnaissance, not main battle engagement." "Convenient orders," muttered Commander Zilara. "One ship hiding while 800 fight." Admiral Veltar raised a hand for silence. "Captain Hyun-ki, I need to ask directly. Does your government have additional forces that could assist us? Perhaps ships that were not mentioned in initial communications?" "Admiral, the Indomitable is what Earth sent to assist with this crisis. We believe it will be sufficient." "Sufficient?" Captain Voroth's rocky features showed disbelief. "We just lost over 200 ships. Your one vessel will make no difference against those machines." Captain Hyun-ki studied the tactical display showing Reaper positions. "With respect, Captain, you lost those ships because you used predictable tactics against an enemy that learns from experience. The same approach will just lead to more losses." "Then what do you suggest?" Admiral Veltar asked. "Our combined fleets cannot damage those machines effectively. They adapt too quickly to everything we try. Let me take the Indomitable closer to the Reaper formation. A single ship reconnaissance mission. We can gather detailed sensor data about their capabilities and weaknesses." The command center fell silent. Finally, Commander Zilara spoke. "You want to fly one ship directly at the enemy that just destroyed hundreds of our vessels? Sometimes you learn more from careful observation than from massive attacks." Admiral Veltar's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "Captain, that would be extremely dangerous. If the Reapers destroy your ship, we lose our only human asset. And if we keep throwing ships at them the same way, we'll lose everything anyway. Admiral, give me permission to probe their defenses. Let me see what we're really dealing with." The coalition officers exchanged glances. Most of them clearly thought the human captain was suggesting suicide. But Admiral Veltar had been watching the battle data, and he knew their current tactics were not working. "Very well, Captain. You have permission for close reconnaissance, but maintain safe distance and retreat immediately if threatened." "Understood, Admiral." As Captain Hyun-ki prepared to leave, Dr. Kexhai approached him. "Captain, why are you really doing this?" "One ship cannot defeat those machines." The human smiled slightly. "Doctor, sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to look at it from a completely different angle. We'll see what the Reapers do when they face something they don't expect." The Indomitable moved through space toward the Void Reaper formation. From the Coalition fleet, hundreds of sensors watched the lone human ship approach the ancient machines. On the Zentorian flagship, Admiral Veltar stood before the main display, his 6 arms clasped behind his back. "They're really doing it," Dr. Kexhai said quietly. "One ship against dozens of those monsters." "Madness," muttered Captain Voroth. "Human madness." On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Hyun-ki watched his tactical display with calm attention. The Void Reapers had noticed their approach and were beginning to move into attack positions. Their dark shapes shifted like living things, flowing into formations that would give them the best firing angles. "Distance to enemy formation?" Captain Hyun-ki asked. 50,000 kilometers and closing," Lieutenant Jaewon reported. "They're definitely tracking us. Weapons are powering up. Energy signatures are increasing across their entire fleet," Dr. Yejin added. "They're preparing for combat." Engineer So-jin looked up from her station. "Captain, should I begin the modifications?" "Not yet. Let's see what they do with standard approaches first." The first Reaper attack came as a concentrated beam of dark energy. It lanced across space toward the Indomitable with enough power to vaporize a small moon. The Coalition officers watching from their ships expected to see the human vessel destroyed instantly. Instead, the Indomitable simply wasn't where the beam hit. The ship had moved at the last possible moment, sliding sideways with an agility that seemed impossible for a vessel its size. The deadly energy passed harmlessly through empty space while the human ship continued its approach. "How did they do that?" Commander Zilara asked on the Coalition command channel. "That maneuver should have torn their ship apart. A second beam followed, then a third. Each time the Indomitable moved just enough to avoid destruction. The ship's movements were unpredictable, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, never following a pattern the Reapers could anticipate. They're not just dodging, Dr. Kexhai observed. They're learning from each attack. Watch how they adjust their timing. The Void Reapers increase their rate of fire, sending dozens of energy beams toward the human ship. The space around the Indomitable became a web of deadly light. But somehow the ship continued to dance between the attacks, moving closer to the enemy formation with each passing moment. On the Indomitable's bridge, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. Lieutenant Jaewon's hands moved over his controls, making constant small adjustments to their course and speed. Dr. Yejin monitored the Reaper energy patterns, calling out timing information. Engineer Sojin watched her systems displays, ready to implement modifications at a moment's notice. They're getting frustrated, Dr. Yejin reported. Look at their formation. They're breaking away from optimal defensive positions to get better shots at us. Good, Captain Hyunki said. Frustrated enemies make mistakes. How are our recordings? Getting excellent data on their weapon systems and response patterns, Dr. Yejin replied. These machines are definitely ancient, but their programming has some interesting limits. Such as? They're designed to fight large fleets using standard tactics. A single ship moving randomly seems to confuse their targeting systems. The Void Reapers tried a new approach. Instead of individual beams, they fired a spread pattern designed to cover all possible escape routes. The attack should have been impossible to avoid. The Indomitable responded by doing something unexpected. The ship suddenly split apart. What had appeared to be one vessel revealed itself as multiple connected modules. Parts of the ship separated and moved in different directions, each taking a separate path through the energy web. The Reaper attack, designed to hit one target, instead hit empty space between the scattered modules. Impossible, Admiral Veltar whispered. Their ship just divided. Modular construction, Dr. Kexhai said with growing excitement. The humans built their ship to reconfigure itself. That's not one vessel. It's multiple ships that can operate as one or separately. The separated modules of the Indomitable began to move in coordination. They attacked the Reaper formation from multiple angles, their weapons firing in carefully timed sequences. But these weren't the standard energy weapons the Coalition had been using. Each module seemed to have different capabilities. One module fired projectiles that exploded into clouds of metal fragments. Another released swarms of small drones that buzzed around the Reaper ships like angry insects. A third module generated some kind of electromagnetic field that interfered with Reaper targeting systems. They're using asymmetric warfare, Dr. Yejin reported to the Coalition fleet. Every attack is different. The Reapers can't adapt because there's no consistent pattern to learn from. The ancient machines tried to respond, but their programming was struggling. They had been designed to face enemies that used predictable tactics and standard weapons. The human approach of constant variation and improvisation was outside their experience. Captain Hyun-ki opened a communication channel to the Coalition fleet. Admiral Veltar, this is Captain Hyun-ki. We've identified several key weaknesses in Reaper defensive programming, requesting permission to coordinate with Coalition forces for a joint attack. Captain, your ship is... How many vessels are you operating? The Indomitable can separate into 12 independent modules, Admiral. Each one has specialized capabilities, but will be more effective working with your remaining ships. What do you need us to do? Send your fastest ships to follow our lead. We'll show them how to attack unpredictably. The key is to never do the same thing twice. Admiral Veltar looked around his command center. The Coalition officers who had been skeptical about the humans now watched the tactical display with new respect. The single human ship was not only surviving against the Void Reapers, it was winning. All fast attack craft coordinate with the human vessel, the Admiral ordered. Follow their tactical lead. The Aquarian corvettes were the first to respond. Their ships were built for speed and maneuverability, perfect for the type of irregular attacks the humans were demonstrating. The corvettes spread out and began hitting the Reaper formation from unexpected angles, copying the human pattern of constant variation. The crystalline fighters joined next, their energy-based weapons adding to the confusion. Soon, dozens of Coalition ships were attacking in the new style, each one following the human example of unpredictable timing and varied approaches. The Void Reapers found themselves facing something their ancient programming had never anticipated. Instead of one large organized attack, they faced dozens of small random strikes from constantly changing directions. Every time they adapted to one pattern, the attack shifted to something completely different. "It's working," Lieutenant Jaewon reported. "The Reapers are taking significant damage. Their adaptive systems can't keep up with this level of variation." Damage reports from multiple Reaper vessels, Dr. Yejin confirmed. Their shields are failing in several sections. But the battle was far from over. The Void Reapers might be ancient, but they were also learning machines. They began to adapt their tactics, spreading out to cover more angles and coordinating their defensive fire more effectively. "They're adjusting," Engineer Sojin warned. "We need to change approach again." "Agreed," Captain Hyun-ki said. "Time for Phase 2. Sojin, begin the deep modifications." "Understood, Captain." Engineer Sojin's fingers danced over her controls. The Indomitable's separated modules began to change again. External panels slid open, revealing new weapon systems. The ship's hull itself began to shift and reconfigure, adapting its shape for new purposes. "What are they doing now?" Admiral Veltar asked, watching the human ship transform itself. "They're rebuilding their vessel during combat," Dr. Kexhai said with amazement. "Real-time adaptation. They're not just changing tactics, they're changing their entire ship to match the situation." The newly configured human modules launched a coordinated assault on the largest Reaper vessel. But this time, their weapons were completely different from before. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they used gravitational manipulators to distort space around the enemy ship. The ancient machine found itself pulled in multiple directions at once, its hull beginning to buckle under impossible stresses. "Coalition forces, concentrate fire on the largest Reaper," Captain Hyun-ki ordered. "Its defenses are compromised." Every available coalition ship turned their weapons on the designated target. With the Reaper's adaptive shields failing under the gravitational assault, the concentrated firepower finally broke through. The ancient machine exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending debris across the battlefield. It was the first Void Reaper destroyed in any engagement with coalition forces. The remaining Reapers pulled back, their formation closing ranks around the damaged vessels. For the first time since the ancient machines had awakened, they were retreating. "All ships pursue and maintain pressure," Admiral Veltar ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The coalition fleet surged forward, following the human modules as they continued their unpredictable attacks. The Reapers fought a running battle, but their usual tactical advantages were gone. They could no longer predict what the combined fleet would do next. As the battle continued, Captain Hyun-ki opened a private channel to his crew. "Excellent work, everyone." 3 days after the first victory against the Void Reapers, the combined fleet established a temporary base in the Meridian system. Coalition engineers worked around the clock to repair damaged ships while tactical experts studied the battle recordings. For the first time in months, there was hope in the air. Captain Hyun-ki stood in the main conference room aboard the Zentaurian flagship, surrounded by coalition commanders from 12 different species. The holographic display showed the locations of remaining Reaper forces, concentrated around a massive structure at the edge of known space. "The Void Reaper core facility," Admiral Veltar explained, his 6 arms gesturing at the display. "Our long-range sensors indicate this is where the ancient machines coordinate their operations. If we can destroy it, we can end their threat permanently." Captain Voroth leaned forward, his rocky features showing concern. "The facility is defended by over 300 Reaper vessels. Even with our new tactics, that's a significant force. Plus, the facility itself has weapons," added Commander Zilara. "Energy signatures suggest defensive systems more powerful than anything we've seen on individual ships." Dr. Kexhai studied the tactical data. "Captain Hyun-ki, your ship proved that the Reapers can be defeated. But this will be their strongest position. They'll have adapted to our new tactics by now." Captain Hyun-ki nodded thoughtfully. "Doctor, adaptation works both ways. We've learned as much about them as they have about us. The question is whether we can adapt faster than they can." Admiral Veltar turned to face the human captain directly. "Captain, I must ask you something that has been troubling the Coalition command staff. Your single ship has performed beyond all expectations. Your tactics saved our fleet and gave us our first victory. But we need to understand, why did Earth send only one vessel?" The room fell silent. Every Coalition officer leaned forward, waiting for the answer to the question that had puzzled them since the human ship first arrived. Captain Hyun-ki was quiet for a long moment, then smiled slightly. "Admiral, would you like the simple answer or the complete answer?" "Both," Admiral Veltar replied immediately. The simple answer is that one ship was enough. The complete answer requires me to explain human military philosophy, which might take some time. We have time, Dr. Kexhai said. This question has been driving us all crazy. Captain Hyun-Ki touched his communication device. Communications, please establish a quantum link to Earth Command. Priority 1 authorization. Understood, Captain. Link established. A new hologram appeared in the conference room. A human woman in Admiral's uniform. Her bearing showed the confidence of someone used to command, and her eyes held the sharpness of a tactical genius. Admiral Subin, Captain Hyun-Ki said formally. Permission to brief Coalition Command on Operation Deepwater. Permission granted, Captain, and congratulations on the successful engagement. Earth Command is very pleased with the results. Admiral Veltar stepped forward. Admiral Subin, I am Admiral Veltar, Coalition Supreme Commander. We are honored to meet you, but we must ask, why did Earth send only one ship to assist us? Admiral Subin smiled. Admiral, how many ships do you think we sent? One, the Indomitable. That's where you're wrong. We sent an entire fleet. You just didn't recognize it as such. The Coalition officers exchanged confused glances. Captain Voroth spoke up. Admiral, we have detailed sensor readings of the human vessel. It is one ship, regardless of its ability to separate into modules. Captain Hyun-Ki, Admiral Subin said, please show our allies what the Indomitable really is. Captain Hyun-Ki touched his controls. The holographic display changed to show a detailed schematic of the human ship, but as the image rotated and expanded, the Coalition officers realized they had been looking at something much more complex than they understood. The Indomitable is not just one ship, Captain Hyun-Ki explained. It's a complete fleet construction and coordination system. Watch. The schematic showed how the ship's modules could not only separate, but also manufacture new components using raw materials from space debris and asteroids. Each module contained fabrication systems that could build additional ships, weapons, or specialized equipment as needed. Adaptive manufacturing. Engineer Sojin's voice came through the communication system from the Indomitable. We can build whatever the situation requires using whatever materials are available. But that's not all, Captain Hyun-Ki continued. The ship also carries the complete tactical knowledge of human military history. Every successful strategy, every innovation, every lesson learned from thousands of years of warfare. Dr. Yejin appeared on another communication channel. The ship's computer systems can analyze any enemy and develop countermeasures in real time. We don't just adapt our tactics, we create entirely new ones. Admiral Subin nodded approvingly. Human military philosophy is based on a simple principle. Overwhelming firepower is less important than overwhelming adaptability. One ship that can become anything is more valuable than 100 ships that can only do one thing. Commander Zilara shook her head in amazement. You built a ship that builds ships, a weapon that creates weapons, a tactical system that invents new tactics. Exactly, Admiral Subin confirmed. The Indomitable represents 50 years of human military development since joining the Coalition. We studied how every species fights, what works, what doesn't, and why. Then we built a vessel that could use any approach needed for any situation. Admiral Veltar's antennae twitched thoughtfully. But why not send multiple ships? Surely having several such vessels would be even more effective. Captain Hyun-Ki answered this time. Admiral, there are several reasons. First, the Indomitable works best as a unique system. Multiple ships like this might interfere with each other's adaptive processes. Second, we wanted to test our theories under real combat conditions. One ship was enough to prove the concept. And third? Dr. Kexhai asked. Third, Admiral Subin said, we wanted to teach the Coalition something important. Your species are all excellent fighters with your own strengths, but you think in terms of fixed roles and overwhelming numbers. We wanted to show you that innovation and adaptation can be more powerful than raw firepower. Tactical specialist Du Hyun appeared on another communication channel from the Indomitable. The Coalition has been fighting the Reapers by trying to outmuscle them. But these machines are ancient and powerful. You can't beat them with force alone. You have to outthink them. Captain Jinwoo, commander of the Human Marine Contingent, joined the conversation. Our boarding teams are trained in asymmetric warfare. We don't fight the way enemies expect. We use surprise, misdirection, and psychological tactics that machines have trouble countering. Dr. Yoon Seo, the theoretical physicist, added her perspective. The Void Reapers are programmed to handle threats from the time they were built, but they've never faced an enemy that constantly invents new types of threats. Their adaptive systems can't keep up with unlimited creativity. Admiral Veltar sat down heavily, his 6 arms drooping with the weight of understanding. You sent one ship because you knew one ship could teach us to defeat an enemy that hundreds of our ships could not touch. More than that, Captain Hyun-Ki said. We sent one ship because we believed in the Coalition's ability to learn and adapt. You didn't need more human ships. You needed to discover your own potential. The holographic display changed again, showing battle recordings from their recent victory. Coalition ships moved with new confidence using tactics they had never tried before. Centaurian vessels employed psychological warfare. Granite dreadnoughts used precision instead of overwhelming force. Aquarian corvettes coordinated in ways that confused enemy targeting systems. Look at your own forces, Admiral Subin pointed out. In 3 days, you've learned to fight more effectively than in months of previous battles. That's not because of human technology. That's because of Coalition adaptability. Dr. Kexhai studied the recordings with new understanding. You weren't just helping us win a battle. You were teaching us how to think about warfare differently. Every species in the Coalition has unique strengths, Captain Hyun-Ki confirmed. But you've been trying to fight like one unified force instead of using your diversity as an advantage. Humans learned long ago that the best armies combine different approaches rather than standardizing everything. Scientist Wu Jin joined the communication from the Indomitable. Our adaptive technology systems are impressive, but they're built on a foundation of cooperative innovation. We learned from studying all Coalition species and combining their best ideas. Marine Sergeant Hai Rim added, even our elite boarding teams use techniques borrowed from a dozen different worlds. The best fighters learn from everyone they meet. Admiral Veltar stood up, his posture showing new determination. So the final assault on the Void Reaper core facility, this will be our test. Can we apply what we've learned to defeat their strongest position? That's exactly right, Admiral Subin confirmed. The Indomitable will coordinate and support, but this victory needs to belong to the Coalition. You need to prove to yourselves that you can win. Captain Hyun-Ki brought up the tactical display showing the enemy facility. The Reapers will throw everything they have at us. They'll use every adaptive system, every defensive measure, every weapon in their arsenal. The final battle began at the edge of known space, where the Void Reaper core facility hung like a dark cancer among the stars. The ancient structure was massive beyond imagination, built from the wreckage of 1,000 dead worlds. Around it, over 300 Reaper ships waited in perfect defensive formations. Captain Hyun-Ki stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching as the Coalition fleet took positions for the assault. But this was not the same fleet that had suffered devastating losses just days before. These ships moved with new confidence, their crews trained in adaptive tactics that would have seemed impossible a week ago. Fleet positioning complete, Lieutenant Jae-won reported. All Coalition forces are ready for coordinated assault. How are they doing? Captain Hyun-Ki asked. Dr. Ye-jin smiled as she monitored Coalition communications. Beautifully, Captain. Listen to this. She put the tactical chatter on the bridge speakers. Instead of rigid military commands, the Coalition forces were discussing creative approaches in real time. Centaurian commanders shared ideas with granite captains. Aquarian pilots coordinated with crystalline fighters. The diversity that had once been a weakness was now their greatest strength. All ships, this is Admiral Veltar, came the fleet-wide communication. Remember what we've learned. These machines expect us to fight like we did before. Show them what the Coalition can really do when we work together. The assault began with something the Void Reapers had never seen: coordinated chaos. Instead of one massive attack, the Coalition launched dozens of different approaches simultaneously. Centaurian ships used psychological warfare, broadcasting confusing signals that interfered with Reaper coordination. Granite dreadnoughts employed precision strikes instead of overwhelming firepower. Aquarian corvettes moved in patterns that seemed random, but followed mathematical principles the ancient machines couldn't predict. The Reapers are struggling to adapt. Engineer Sojin reported from her station. They're trying to respond to 12 different tactical approaches at once. Captain Hyun-Ki nodded with satisfaction. That's the key. No single adaptive system can handle unlimited variation. What's our status? All modules ready for deployment, Sojin confirmed. But Captain, The coalition forces are performing better than expected. They might not need our direct intervention. Good. Our job is to support and coordinate, not to fight their battle for them. The Indomitable had separated into its 12 component modules, each one positioned to provide assistance where needed. But instead of leading the attack, the human ship was serving as a coordination center, helping coalition forces communicate and adapt their tactics in real time. "Captain," Dr. Yejin called out, "I'm detecting something interesting. The Void Reaper core facility is beginning to power up. It looks like they're preparing some kind of ultimate weapon." The massive structure began to glow with dark energy. Sections of its hull opened to reveal weapon systems that dwarfed anything the Coalition had seen before. The ancient facility was preparing to destroy the entire attacking fleet with one overwhelming strike. "All Coalition forces, this is Captain Hyun Ki," he broadcast on all channels. "The facility is charging a planet-killer weapon. We have approximately 10 minutes before it fires. Can we destroy it in time?" Admiral Veltar asked. "Not with conventional attacks. But we don't need to destroy it. We need to confuse it." Dr. Yejin brought up a tactical analysis on the main screen. "The facility's targeting system is designed to track large formations. It's expecting us to group together for a concentrated assault. So we do the opposite," Captain Hyun-Ki said. "All ships spread out to maximum distance. Make yourselves impossible to target as a group." The Coalition fleet scattered across light years of space, each ship becoming an individual target instead of part of a unified force. The facility's massive weapon systems tried to track them, but the targeting computers couldn't decide which targets to prioritize. "It's working," Lieutenant Jaewon reported. "The facility can't get a lock on our dispersed formation." But the Void Reapers adapted quickly. The 300 defending ships began to coordinate their own attacks, trying to force the Coalition vessels back into a concentrated formation where the facility's weapons could destroy them all at once. "They're hurting us," Admiral Veltar observed, "trying to push us into the facility's firing solution." Captain Hyun-Ki studied the tactical display, then smiled. "Perfect. They're so focused on forcing us into a group that they're not watching what we're actually doing. All ships begin the convergence pattern, but not where they expect." The Coalition forces began to move, but instead of being herded toward the facility's target zone, they converged on the Void Reaper ships themselves. Each Coalition vessel paired with a Reaper, using the ancient machines as shields against the facility's weapons. "Brilliant," Dr. Kekshai's voice came over the communication channels. "The facility can't fire without destroying their own ships." The Void Reapers found themselves in an impossible position. They couldn't use their ultimate weapon without destroying their own forces, but they also couldn't break away from the Coalition ships without exposing themselves to the adaptive tactics that had already proven effective. "All boarding teams, prepare for insertion," Captain Jinwoo announced from the Indomitable. "We're going inside that facility." Human Marines, supported by volunteers from Coalition species, launched toward the massive structure in small, fast ships. These weren't traditional boarding craft, but adaptive vehicles that could change their approach based on defensive responses. Engineer So-Jin coordinated the assault from her module. "Boarding teams use entry pattern Delta 7. The facility's defenses are programmed for large-scale attacks, not small infiltration units. The boarding team slipped through the facility's defenses like water through cracks." Marine Sergeant Hiram led the way, using tactics that combined human psychological warfare with alien technical expertise. They didn't fight their way in. They confused their way in, making the facility's defensive systems think they were maintenance drones or supply shuttles. Inside the massive structure, the teams discovered something unexpected. The Void Reaper core intelligence wasn't a single computer or control center. It was a distributed network of ancient machines, each one thinking part of a larger thought. "Captain," Dr. Yunseo reported from the boarding teams, "I'm reading the facility's central processing systems. This isn't just a weapon. It's the brain of the entire Reaper network. If we can disrupt it, all the Reapers will lose coordination." "How do we disrupt something that big?" Captain Hyun-Ki asked. "We don't destroy it," Scientist Wu Jin replied. "We confuse it. Give it too much contradictory information to process." The boarding team spread throughout the facility, each group finding a different processing node. But instead of trying to destroy the ancient computers, they began feeding them conflicting data. Human creativity combined with alien technical knowledge to create logical paradoxes that the million-year-old programming couldn't resolve. "It's working," Dr. Yejin reported from the Indomitable. "The facility's systems are beginning to slow down. The Reapers are losing coordination." Outside the facility, the Void Reaper ships began to move erratically. Without the guidance of their central intelligence, they fell back on older, more primitive programming. They became predictable, and predictable enemies could be defeated by forces that had learned to think creatively. The Coalition fleet pressed their advantage. Centaurian ships used precision strikes to disable key systems. Granite dreadnoughts provided covering fire for smaller vessels. Aquarian corvettes darted in to rescue damaged allies. Every species contributed their unique strengths to a coordinated effort that no single enemy could counter. "Core facility is going critical," Engineer Sojin announced. "The conflicting information has caused cascade failures throughout their network. All boarding teams, immediate extraction," Captain Jinwoo ordered. "The facility is about to collapse." The teams evacuated just as the massive structure began to tear itself apart. Ancient systems that had operated for 1,000,000 years finally encountered something they couldn't process: unlimited variation and creativity. The logical paradoxes created by human imagination and alien expertise had broken programming that had once seemed unbreakable. As the Void Reaper core facility destroyed itself, the remaining enemy ships lost all coordination. They became individual targets rather than a unified force, and the Coalition fleet made short work of them. Within hours, the ancient threat that had nearly destroyed galactic civilization was reduced to floating debris. "All ships, this is Admiral Veltar," came the fleet-wide announcement. "The Void Reaper threat has been eliminated. The galaxy is safe." Cheers echoed across every Coalition ship. But on the Indomitable, Captain Hyun Ki felt only quiet satisfaction. The real victory wasn't the destruction of an ancient enemy. It was watching the Coalition discover what they could accomplish when they worked together. "Captain," Admiral Veltar's personal communication came through. "I need to ask you something. Your ship performed brilliantly, but I noticed you let us take the lead in the final battle." "Why?" Captain Hyun Ki smiled. "Admiral, what would you have learned if we had simply destroyed the facility ourselves? The point was never to show you that one human ship could solve your problems.